Hello, everybody. Welcome to AZ Security. My name is Dinan Paardenkoper. I'm a security cloud architect, and today we're going to talk about global secure access, internet access. Today we have a special guest, Matthew. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Dinan. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Welcome
Yeah,
back.
so thank you. So I'm a Microsoft solutions architect, specializing in identity and access management. And today I want to talk about the global secure access internet access, which is a part of Microsoft's global secure access. You may wonder what is internet access as part of Microsoft Entra, and it is a cloud-based secure web gateway, essentially. So it provides secure access to the internet, some software as a service applications that are integrated into Entra, and Microsoft 365 resources. And it forms part of Microsoft's global secure access platform.
Definitely, yeah. It's amazing to have you back. Last time we talked about private access, so very curious to see what you're bringing today.
Sure. So last time we were speaking about private access. And so just to take a step back, Global Secure Access, or GSA, is just a unifying term for the two products, Microsoft Entra Internet Access and Microsoft Entra Private Access. And last time we were talking about private access, which grants access to your private resources in your private data center, in Azure, etc. Today, however, we're going to talk about internet access, which is internet browsing sites, websites, web categories, software as a service, and the Microsoft 365 um, infrastructure. What I want to just highlight is that within the global secure access, we have three traffic profiles, and we've got the last time we spoke about private access as a traffic profile, a forwarding profile. That's that private traffic. Then you can see in the middle of this diagram, we've got Microsoft Entra Internet Access, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to touch on the Microsoft traffic as well. Insofar as licensing the capability, Internet access and private access are part of Global Secure Access or the Entra suite, or you can purchase Internet access or private access separately as separate SKUs. The Microsoft traffic is actually included for free in any Entra ID P1 license. So you might find that you already have the Microsoft traffic capabilities in your tenant if you only have Entra ID P1. So what are the use cases of internet access? Um, so you may be familiar with Secure Web Gateway, SWG, and in legacy environments where you had a corporate network and firewalls, that would be a proxy server or a firewall that would govern and control the traffic to the internet. And you could have policies in place that blocked access to social networking sites and various sites that contained specific content. But that meant that the endpoints or the users had to be on the corporate network, and when they were going out through the internet, that was being controlled. Now what we have is the Global Secure Access Secure Service Edge, or SSE, that then applies to any endpoint that has the client, essentially. So you don't have to be behind the corporate network firewall or within that network. So a great use case for this is to create adaptive access controls to resources, internet resources, using conditional access. You are probably familiar with conditional access policies, but typically those policies apply to accessing resources in your tenant from various compliant devices, users. They need to perform MFA, etc., etc. Now, on the other hand, with internet access, we can govern access to internet resources and integrated software as a service applications with conditional access policies requiring a compliant network which is essentially the global secure access client on the device. So what that means is we have context-aware network security. So we can apply specific rules to different scenarios based off of the device and the network that it's connected to. We can control the access to Microsoft apps, other internet resources, and software as a service applications, very similar to how you can do with conditional access policies for traditional Microsoft 365 services. The other thing that I want to speak about is that from a security perspective, we can protect against token replay attacks. So accessing critical software as a service applications the policy can require that client is enabled and on a compliant machine so that the token can't be stolen and replayed elsewhere on a different device. And then another use case is to be able to prevent data exfiltration by something called tenant restrictions, where we restrict our users that are part of our organization from signing into other organizations using tenant restrictions. So let me get into how we would configure these things. So first of all, we need to, and so here I am in the Entra portal, and I am in Global Secure Access in the dashboard. And you can see it's giving me quite a bit of useful information around some traffic, green being Microsoft traffic, blue being the private access traffic, and yellow being the internet access traffic. Now, to start off with, I need to configure or enable those traffic forwarding profiles. So I go to connect, and you may remember last time we enabled the private access traffic forwarding. And now what I need to have done, and I've done it in this tenant already, is I've enabled internet access profile on the right-hand side. And when I enabled it, it actually asks, it recommends enabling the Microsoft 365 traffic profile at the same time. So I didn't have to enable the one and then go to the other and enable the Microsoft 365 one. It enables it as part of that. But you can choose not to enable it, but it's recommended to enable the Microsoft 365 traffic profile at the same time. So the Microsoft 365 traffic profile just allows you to govern and control the traffic that is going to the Microsoft services, so Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, etc. So there's no restrictions in place by default, but it does allow you to monitor that and acquire that traffic and monitor it, and then put some policies in place. I've also assigned these profiles to all users. As you can see down here, the internet access profile is assigned to all users. Again, you can scope that to groups, but it's recommended to assign it to all users. It won't take effect unless the user has the global secure access client on their machine. Then what I have to do for web traffic, and now this is where we get into quite a bit of configuration. So under secure, we've got web content filtering policies. So this is, I don't know if you remember things like Threat Management Gateway, TMG, or even before that, ISA 2000 server. That was a server that controlled internet gateway traffic, and you had to create policies and rules. This is similar, I suppose, where we have to create policies. And by default, there is already, well, I created a baseline internet access policy. And I'll just show you this, this policy, which contains a couple of rules. And so the name is baseline internet access block rule, and the action is block. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm going to block any websites that contain nudity, social networking, gambling. So that's going to be my baseline for the organization, which means that by default, users can't access those types of web categories. I've also added a couple of FQDNs purely for demonstration purposes. It's a news site, and these will also be blocked by default in my baseline policy. So I just want to show you, when you're adding a rule, what you can add. And so you can you obviously give it a name, and in the drop down you've got the web category. So you'll see down here there's a list of all these different categories, so like nudity, pornography, self-harm, sex education, tasteless, violence, weapons, all sorts of categories that have been created by Microsoft. They get updated daily as far as I'm aware. Sites go into those categories. The other two options we have are FQDNs and URLs. So with FQDNs, you can simply put, for example, star.microsoft.com or star.amazon.com or whatever. Maybe your competitor, you don't want people to be going to your competitor's FQDN site, any site. Or if you've got a specific URL that you want to block, for example, microsoft.com/Entra, I wouldn't recommend that, but you could block any kind of URL, right? Or you can add that to a rule that allows, in contradiction to a block policy. Anyway, so those are the things that we have in our baseline rule, which is blocking a couple of web categories and a particular site. Then we've got a security profile. So the rules, the web content filtering policies, don't do anything unless they're associated with a security profile. Now, the baseline profile applies to all users regardless. So there's no need for any kind of conditional access policy. And actually, it says that up here. The baseline profile is a default security profile that applies to all internet traffic, including remote network traffic, and does not need to be linked to a conditional access policy to take effect. So this is kind of like the default rule. And in my default baseline profile, I've added that baseline internet access block rule, okay, which blocks those types of category websites. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just demonstrate what that would look like. So I am going to just show you that for now, my global secure access client is disconnected. And if I tell you what, let me open up just a new browser profile, and I go to news24.co.za, which is the one site that is meant to be blocked, and I can get to that, no problem. But that's because I don't have the client enabled. All right, so let me close that down. Let me go back to the global secure access client and enable it. And now I'm signing in. It's signing in with my Entra ID credentials, and it is going to get the policies that have been defined. And you'll see in a moment which channels it should light up, all the channels. So internet is connected. So that channel, that traffic forwarding profile is applying to my machine, and the rules and the policies, etc., should all apply to me. Now, if I do the same thing, and there might be some cookies cached. So actually, tell you what, I'm going to just do it in another profile just to avoid there being any issues. But there's an important thing to notice here. News24.co.za, I get a block message, right? And that's telling me its global secure access has blocked it. Now, the important thing to note is I can switch profiles. So this means that it's happening on the machine level. It's on the client level, not the browser. So it's not a browser plugin dependency. I could be using Chrome, Firefox, Opera, you name it. It's at the machine level that this is happening. So everything is being tunneled through this client. And last time I showed you some of the logging that you can do. The same applies with internet access. You can see the forwarding profile that has applied, and I'll very quickly show you that. So if I go to forwarding profile, I have internet access rules, and if I expand that, So a lot of stuff is bypassed by default, and that's purely so that Microsoft services can work so that you can connect to Entra and things like that. There we go, tunnel. So this is using a regular expression, a regex, which is basically all the internet DNS traffic and then IP traffic. So, and port 80 and 443 are being tunneled through the global secure access client. So that's basically what it's doing. So anything using those protocols to any kind of destination on the internet is going to go through this client. And that's why we can see that it gets blocked in any browser, any application.
Right.
All right. Now that's it. Internet access demonstrated. But there's more things that you can do to this, right? So the baseline is to block these websites for all our users, but we might have a research department or a marketing department that has to have access to social media websites or news sites like this, etc. So what I'm doing is I'm combining internet access profiles and policies, conditional access policies, and identity governance access packages. So access packages allows a user to request access to temporarily or permanently for however long access these kinds of sites. So I'm just going to show you the config of what I've done. What I've also created is a separate web content filtering policy, which allows those websites. So you'll see allow social networking, we allow, and in the rules, I've got similar rules, right? I've got the social networking is allowed. So I'm still not going to allow nudity, and I can't remember what the other ones were, other categories were that I'm blocking. I will just allow social networking, and that News 24, I've defined it with a comma separated list of FQDNs. So that profile or policy is associated with a separate security profile. Now, if you remember, I said that the baseline profile applies to everybody without a conditional access policy. Security profiles allows you to manage security profiles with your organization attached to conditional access to make them user and context aware, right? So now nowhere in this policy does it say apply this to the marketing department or apply it to Matthew or Dinant. It's just there. And so I'm just going to expand that, and that's just allow the social networking sites. Okay, we've got the web filtering type is allow. And we give it a priority as well. And obviously, if you have lots of rules, you have to kind of create those priorities. So as a user, I still can't access the social networking sites because I haven't gone through conditional access. This is where I go to Entra ID and create a conditional access policy. And those of you who are familiar with conditional access policies will know that you can configure a policy to apply to certain applications, certain networks, but once you've enabled global secure access in your tenant, it enables another context that we can utilize in conditional access. So if I go to policies, I've actually created this internet access allow social networking policy. So what I'll do is I'll just step you through this policy. So we're going to apply it to specific users. Now I've created a group, internet access allow social networking sites, right? I will show you something special about this group in a moment. Then the resources, this is where global secure access enables a new thing. I've got under resources, formerly cloud apps, it includes now all internet resources with global secure access. So I've set that. So now we're applying it to all internet with global secure access, and I don't have to configure any other conditions, or controls. So under networking, I don't have anything from a networking perspective defined, and I could define some conditions, but I don't need to. And all I've configured is the session. Right down at the bottom is use global secure access security profile. Now remember, I created a security profile, and that is that allow social networking sites security profile, which I created earlier. So I've associated it with that. So now my conditional access policy is in place. I mentioned the group. Let me just show you. So this applies to this group, Internet Access Allow. If I go to
Just one
groups,
question in between. How long does
yes,
it to have effect? So I've created the profiles,
yeah.
I've created the required conditional access, which is then specific for a use case. Is that within a few moments? Will it take long to have effect?
So conditional access, and I've experienced deploying conditional access policies a lot. And there are some delays in when a conditional access policy change. So if you make a change to a policy or if you create a new policy, it doesn't apply immediately. It's not real time. So usually when I'm configuring conditional access policies with people, I say, okay, now we've created that policy. Let's go grab a cup of coffee, leave it 5 minutes, come back, and then we'll test it. So there is that. And when we're troubleshooting conditional access policies, we also want to look at the sign-in logs. And the sign-in logs also have a delay of about 3 to 5 minutes. So that's why I will try and allocate quite a bit of time for testing, create the policies, let them synchronize because they have to replicate across different environments. And then when you test them, also allow another 10 minutes or so for the logs to be able to come in so that you can see what is happening. It's a good question. And I'm glad you asked that question because it may affect my demonstration if I make changes. However, I have the policy created, so I'm going to hope it works. What I wanted to show you about the groups, so if I go to groups and just search that group, that Internet Access Allow Social Networking Sites group, which that policy applies to, and you'll see in this group, there are no members. So the marketing department or whomever is not going to be able to get past that conditional access policy. So the policy is not going to apply essentially. So what I've done is I've created an access package. And so now if I go to identity governance and I go to entitlement management, access package is there, which allows me to request as a marketing user access to that group. So I'll be added to the group and then the conditional access policy will apply, which will then grant me access to the social networking sites. Okay. One more thing that I want to demonstrate is the access to software as a service or integrated applications. So you'll see at the top here, I've got the techcommunity.microsoft.com. Typically, and I'm just going to disable my connection again, just for demonstration. So I'm disabling the client. And if I go to this integrated application, so just for demonstration purposes, imagine that this application, Tech Community, is an integrated application that my company uses, a software as a service application. And so I need to sign in to this application using my corporate credentials, and I can't sign in. And that is because I have a conditional access policy that says you can only sign into this corporate application that we have if you're coming from a secure network. So basically you are using the global secure access client. So it has been blocked. So I'll just sign out and just show you that conditional access policy. So here is the block MS Tech Community if not compliant conditional access policy. So it's applying to the users, and the resource is that Microsoft Tech Community application, which is integrated into my tenant. That's how I see it there. So it's integrated with Entra, and the condition that I have is under networks. And so if it's coming from any network, excluding a compliant network location, So I'm not saying these IP addresses or these named locations or these trusted IPs, trusted networks. It's compliant network location, which means it needs the global secure access client is deployed and accessing. I can block the access if it's not that case. So that's what the policy does. So as soon as I enable this global secure access client again, and I get all the policies, and I go back to Microsoft Tech Communities and try and sign in with my corporate account, Conditional Access has let me sign in. There you go. You can see I'm signed in.
It's magic.
It's magic. So what we've done here is we're able to control access to the internet as well as some integrated applications using internet access with conditional access policies and access packages all integrated with Entra ID.
Nice. It's a beautiful way to get a zero trust architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And protecting your applications all the way.
That's right. And because using those zero trust principles, we can verify explicitly. So we can require MFA, phishing resistant MFA, to access these sites. And we're checking that the device is compliant and managed, etc. So yeah, exactly that. It's all zero trust principles applying to the edge, and my device that I did the demonstrations on are not connected to the corporate network. There's no VPN connected, essentially just using my home internet, but the traffic is being tunneled.
Nice. If I'm new to this topic, where do I start?
So Microsoft Learn has got some very cool websites on global secure access and some demonstrations, in fact. And I can include a link that will go through a walkthrough of the experience, a demonstration of what it looks like without you having to configure it in your tenant, which I think is quite useful.
Cool. I will add them on the links below. Matthew, can I thank you once again for having a great demo, real life scenarios, and just explained beautifully. Any last thoughts?
No, thank you. You're welcome. And thank you very much for having me. And yeah, good luck to everybody that's learning about global secure access and internet access. It's a very exciting topic. I love it. So yeah, if you've got questions, let me know. Hook me up, and I'll see you on LinkedIn and social media. So yeah, looking forward to any questions and comments.
All right, cool. For everybody at home, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts, please leave them down below. And otherwise, I would say thank you. And until next time, take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.